In the past, I've talked about how one of the biggest appeals to making a licensed fighting game is getting to see characters' power sets made into an FG moveset. When it comes to creating a kit for the protagonist, the developers are often prompted to design them in a way that leans towards a beginner-friendly, all-rounder kit, one that typically involves a Shoto-esque set of specials with a fireball and an uppercut. The logic is clear. It's easy to digest for new or casual players who will likely be drawn to the central character of a series, the one whose face is probably sprawled across all the box art and the promotional material. This is why I hold Heritage for the Future in very high esteem. They couldn't just make the protagonist of Stardust Crusaders a fireball uppercut character. That role ended up going to Abdal, but the way they handled the MC still resulted in one of the coolest fighting game characters ever. Today, let's talk about Jotaro. Jotaro is the main character and leading man/human mountain of JoJo Part 3, so naturally, he's also the star of the fighting game based on it. Besides often being front and center on much of the promotional art, he's also the default P1 character. However, like I said, he doesn't follow the same design conventions of many main characters in fighting games, not just games based on anime or manga or other video games, but in general. If you're expecting anything resembling a Shoto, your eyes are on the wrong character. Jotaro in this game is all about brawling, and his kit is built around getting in and enforcing his offense. Jotaro is definitively one of the best characters in the game, and in my opinion, he's also the coolest character in the game. Even with so many simplistic looking attacks, he has some of the most stylish combos and Oki in the game. And as someone who's frequently been at the receiving end of the things that make him top tier, I'm happy to take the next half hour or so of both your time and mine to explain why he's a powerhouse. First up, those buttons. Jotaro's 5A is a quick 3-frame knee jab. It's got moderate range, and compared to some other 5As, it doesn't hit as high up. Compare his 5A to Polnareff or Ice or Dio, the hitbox is much lower, so he can't use it as a fast swat them out of the sky anti-air like those can. Despite this, it still has many favorable properties. It maintains solid frame advantage on block and push block, and it's one of Jotaro's best combo starters. 5A is +6 on hits, allowing a link into Jotaro's 6B, his most integral confirming button. The range on these buttons is definitely a bit limited, which is a problem some of Jotaro's other stand-off normals have, though they compensate in other ways, like speed and combo conversions. Jotaro 2A is another 3-framer, sporting superior range and also hitting low, but at the cost of slightly worse frame advantage than 5A. 2A is +5 on hit, so it still goes into 6B, but the link is harder. It also does less damage. 5B is outclassed. It's 6 frames, so it links out of 5A, and it isn't bad in any outstanding way, but there's just no reason to use this over 6B in combos, pressure, or even neutral. It's pretty stubby, it does less damage, and it doesn't even have substantially better frame advantage. If 6B wasn't anything short of outstanding, it might have had more use cases, but it's really not worthwhile in the end. 2B, on the other hand, has some interesting properties. Despite being a B normal, it's as fast as his 5A and 2A. This is mainly used for certain combo extensions. Jotaro's 5C is an absolute meter build machine. By cancelling this into 236S, you get 13 meter, so doing it over and over again can build Jotaro 1 bar insanely fast, and doing it from a distance is actually harder to stop than it looks, since the 7-frame startup and the hitbox makes it pretty good at stopping jumps. Abusing this is essential for Jotaro's game plan because he has tons of ways to spend meter, and most of them are super strong. Note that doing this as fast as possible requires negative edging for the optimal meter build. 2C is a pretty standard sweep, hitting low and causing a knockdown on hit. It's a 7-frame button, so linking into it is a little tough, but there are options like dash 5C. As a poke, it can be extremely scary to get hit by, though I'll talk about that more when I get into his specials. Generally, he has other, more practical ways to go into a hard knockdown in his combos, but 2C still maintains use as a great neutral tool to check movement. Jotaro's Jump A and Jump B are identical normals. Both are 3-frame with basically the same hitbox and frame data. The difference is that Jump B does 2 more damage and is active for 3 frames longer, 16 compared to Jump A's 13 active frames. This actually makes a bigger difference than it sounds. Jotaro Jump B is one of the best air-to-airs in the game due to how difficult it is to contest. Jump C, on the other hand, is used for two purposes mainly, a jump in and an instant overhead. It excels in both areas, being his highest damage stand-on air button. It's a common button to use in his B&Bs, usually being done out of a hyper hop to continue a combo after 214X. As a mix-up option, if done as an instant overhead, you don't get much besides the damage, but Jotaro has a special move that covers this base. I'll get into Jotaro's Okizeme later, but trust me, this thing will ruin your opponent's day when done on their wake up. I've glazed 6B a bit up to this point, and man, I don't think I can do justice to how awesome this normal is. With this standing low, Jotaro straight crushes the opponent's ankle. 6B is fully cancelable and fast enough to slot super comfortably into his combos as an extension tool and tandem confirm, but it's also just a great poke, good punish, and a surprisingly decent pressure tool. Although it is very unsafe on push block, using 6B's forward movement after a 5A or 2A is push blocked can close the distance after he's pushed out, which can catch people trying to jump away. 6C is also a standing low. It's a good deal slower than 6B with more recovery to boot, so it doesn't have the same amazing utility in combos or neutral. However, it does do a lot of stand gauge damage, so it can situationally be used for certain stand crash resets, which lead to a lot of damage for Jotaro. It is also useful when fighting Vice, since it could potentially stuff his stand 2B, stand 2C spam. 3C, I mean, this is not rocket science. Cut and Dry, a fantastic anti-air that does a great job shutting down lots of air buttons. Of note is that it does 20 stand damage, which is insane reward for anti-airing a stand-on character. Jotaro's dash normals are slightly bolstered by his forward dash traveling very far, though this doesn't entirely solve the problem of some of them having mediocre range. Still, he has uses for most of his standoff dash buttons. Dash 5A is faster than its stationary counterpart, and it's more active to boot. This button is plus on block and safe on PB, allowing Jotaro to brute force his way into frame advantage very quickly, which is a scary position to be in. The only real issue is that it's not normally plus enough to link into anything. Getting a combo afterwards requires hitting on a later active frame. Notably, this is useful as a substitute for Jump C in combos after 214B. Dash 2A is also way slower than its stationary equivalent, being 7 frames, but that's still fast enough to be a threat. You really can't go wrong with the 7 frame advancing low, and although it cannot link into anything, Jotaro has a special move that can allow him to convert it and other buttons with similar frame advantage into greater damage. Dash 5B resembles 5B, and is also a decent way for Jotaro to get in. Paired with 236S, it's good for catching people trying to jump away from him. Dash 5C is great mainly for its insane frame advantage. Sporting a hitbox that's somewhat similar to 5C, this button is tremendously plus on both hit and block. You thought Dash 5A was proficient for letting him bully his way in close? Dash 5C's conversions are genuinely insane. However, it also has very high recovery, and it whiffs on a fair few characters if crouching. This is especially egregious in the corner, where it might whiff on characters it would connect with mid-screen, so be careful with this button. Dash 2B is nothing special in most regards, but it has some absolutely demonic stand gauge damage. 24, god damn. Not a great button to just throw out, but it can be used for some very strong stand crash setups, and one particular combo I'll touch on later. The last dash normal I want to highlight is Dash 5C. Again, see, in Heritage for the Future, if your character has a stand-off normal that performs an attack with their stand, that particular normal will be replaced with a different attack in situations where the stand is already attacking. This usually happens during tandems, but Jotaro can also cause it to happen with Star Breaker and Star Finger. If Dash 5C is done while Star Platinum is already doing an attack, then the button that Jotaro does is identical to Dash 5B. However, doing this while Star Platinum is disappearing from the screen after an attack will cause the recovery of Dash 5C to be dropped tremendously. This is great because it also improves the frame advantage, allowing Jotaro to get conversions off of this button that wouldn't normally work. The same quirk exists with Dash 2C, though Dash 5B is preferable because of its higher damage. This trick is especially strong when Star Finger connects to allow a link into 6B after a successful Finger Oki. It's a trick absolutely worth learning for the damage it enables. Moving on to stand-on buttons. Holy shit. You're probably already aware that Star Platinum is strongest when fighting at close ranges, and evidently Capcom was too, so they gave Jotaro some of the most cracked stand-on buttons in the game. But before that, let's talk about combos. While every active and weapon stand character has Magic Series style chain combos and stand on, Jotaro is also equipped with unique auto combo chains that you can do by inputting specific sequences of buttons. Most of these are pretty nondescript, but some warrant a little more discussion. Generally, the simplest ones like stand 5A, 5A, 5B are just there to be hit confirmed from his jabs into easy damage. Stand 5A, 5A, 5B also has an extra ender you can do with either 5B or 2C, which hit overhead and low respectively. However, as you probably noticed, the overhead and the low don't actually combo from the first parts of the string. There's a string with a similar gimmick starting with stand 2A. Stand 2A, 2B, 2A, 2B is a low hitting combo, and it's nice because it hits short characters. After that, you can end with 2B for another overhead reset, but you can also end this string with 2C. Thankfully, this one actually does combo and it knocks down on hit. None of these are preferable to Jotaro's normal stand-on combos, but if nothing else, they're nice to have just for how easy they are. I also want to highlight Jotaro's grab, where he punts the opponent away. It's a good grab in its own right, but part of why it really stands out is some of the different ways Jotaro can land it, and I don't just mean like tick throws. I'll talk about this more when I get into Star Breaker, and believe me, you'll realize then how strong Jotaro's strike throw situations can be. The throw itself, though, very solid. Nothing particularly special, but it does the job with good damage and screen carry. The stand-off grab is punishable on hit though, particularly in the corner. Anyway, let's start with stand 5A, which is a perfect example of just how good his stand-on buttons actually are. Stand 5A is blazing fast to start up and whiff, and it leads to very easy damage by simply chaining into 5B and then cancelling into stand 214X. Stand 5A is not only an amazing brawling tool from up close and a rewarding combo starter, but it's a supremely good anti-air thanks to the speed and hitbox. It also enhances the use of 4ABC and 6ABC, both of which allow him to option select between stand 5A or a grab. Pressing A, B, and C all at once will have stand 5A come out, and holding forward or back when doing this will input a throw or throw tech when close enough to the opponent. Most active and weapon stand characters can do this OS, and for Jotaro it's especially strong because of how low commitment and rewarding his stand 5A is. Jotaro players are gonna mash this button, it's just a fact of life, and you won't be able to do much to stop it. It does whiff on most crouching characters, but that's just about the only issue this button actually has. Stand 5B. I like to call this kind of button a protagonist normal. You know the kind I'm talking about. Stand 5B is fucking nuts. I mean, look at this hitbox. Are we serious? This button alone can shut down entire characters, and even those who can deal with Jotaro's other neutral tools still have to be careful navigating around it. Being fully disjointed, fast, and cancelable, it's incredibly hard and risky to stop Jotaro from pressing this, and it can whiff punish an insane amount of things, while also being hit confirmable into easy damage. And if Jotaro has the life lead, good luck getting around this, cause it's basically a wall between you and getting a hit on him to get it back. Jotaro stand 5B has an auto combo, stand 5B 5B, comes with two enders, another 5B which launches the opponent, and 2B which is a low. The second hit of this auto combo whiffs on short characters though. Again, better to just special cancel stand 5B if it hits. Also important to remember is that the stand 5B auto combo comes out on whiff, which can be annoying. Stand 5C is a button which changes based on Jotaro's proximity to the opponent. Far stand 5C is a pretty slow button that cannot be cancelled, but it has good range and does good damage. Not bad, but hard to rationalize throwing this out over stand 5B when the reward is much lower. Close stand 5C can be cancelled and is quite a solid combo tool, being able to link into stand 5A and dash stand 5A. You'll usually see Jotaro players use this in stand crash combos after a specific launcher. Jotaro's stand 2A and stand 2B both serve as stand-ins, against characters that can low profile stand 5A, particularly in tandem combos. Stand 5A whiffing on crouchers means the usual tandem mash of ABC wouldn't work on them, so stand 2A and stand 2B are used in these situations instead. Only thing is that stand 2A doesn't hit low. You can block this standing, which looks really weird honestly. Stand 2C is your anti-air and stand on, and a pretty phenomenal one. It's super consistent at stopping jumps, and it synergizes well with stand jump C, which is an amazing air-to-air and a really good way to chase people teching into the air. Combined with stand 5A, Jotaro in stand on can dissuade jumps very easily, forcing the opponent to contest with his amazing grounded buttons. As far as dashing stand on buttons, dash stand 5A is great for many of the same reasons the stationary version is. The frame advantage on block and the fact it can link into stand 5A on hit for a combo makes it a very strong neutral tool. Dash stand 2A actually hits low. Apparently Jotaro can only break the opponent's guard while on the move. Always nice to have a traveling low in this game, especially one that can be confirmed into a combo. Dash stand 5C is used in ranged stand crash tandem confirms, since it's cancelable and travels real far. Stand 6B is Jotaro's only stand on command normal. It's an overhead that, while slow, bolsters his ability to pressure the opponent with its staggering advantage of -8 on hit. Yes, this is a punishable on hit overhead, and it's not even safe on block to compensate. This is not to be used like a normal overhead. Jotaro has more than enough ways for you to crack open defense without a slow overhead that will always get him killed, even if it lands. He mainly uses stand 6B for unblockable resets during a tandem, which are actually pretty good. Jotaro specials. Okay, some interesting stuff here. His stand activation attack, 236S, is a pretty innocent looking attack at first glance, but it's actually really insane. The main draws to this move is the speed and the fact it cancels out of all of his standoff normals. If literally any button hits you, Jotaro can and will cancel this into 236S for extra damage. There's really nothing else to it. Taking stray hits from Jotaro leads to dangerous amounts of damage for your health and stand gauge because of this move. 3C into 236S does 44 damage to the stand gauge, just for reference. Other buttons, especially his dash normals like dash 2A and dash 5B, benefit tremendously from being able to be confirmed into extremely solid damage and potentially a knockdown, making them much more threatening to deal with when Jotaro decides to approach. Something that's cool about Jotaro's specials is his ability to cancel them into each other. 236S can be cancelled into stand 214X, but only combos out of the A and B versions. This cancel is particularly useful since stand 214X is his main way of getting a hard knockdown in a combo. Stand 236X can also be cancelled into stand 214X, and that move can be cancelled into stand 623X. Let's do 214X first. This is a special that plays a large part in Jotaro's combos as an extender and as an ender. Standoff sends Star Platinum barreling across the screen. The A version has the fastest startup and C has the slowest. This is the cornerstone of Jotaro's combos. After 6B into 214B, Jotaro can connect with a jump C. This works from anywhere, but it requires a hyper hop mid-screen for the jump C to connect. This does good damage and corner carry on its own, and combined with a tandem and everything that comes after, even with stubby standoff buttons, any touch from Jotaro leads to great reward. 214X can also be used as a good pressure tool. It's plus on block, and push blocking it only pushes the stand away, so Jotaro is free to stay in the opponent's face if they do that. Stand 214X is a very different move. Jotaro lunges alongside Star Platinum here, and the move functions as a Rekka, with 3 different follow-ups that can be done with another 214 and either A, B, or C. The A ender, as you just saw, knocks the opponent down, leaving them right next to Jotaro. This is why his stand crash proficiency is so fucking scary. If a character is in stand on mode, they're immune to knockdowns, but Jotaro almost never has to worry about that because of the fact that his combos stand crash so easily. Both 214X and stand 214X do a shitload of stand gauge damage on hit. Stand 214B 214A is his best combo ender and one of the absolute most terrifying in the game for the situation it puts you in, right at Jotaro's feet, giving him all the time in the world to set up Oki while the opponent gets up. The B ender for the Rekka launches the opponent into the air. The C ender also knocks the opponent down, but the frame advantage is way worse. Pay attention to how far the C ender knocks the opponent away compared to the A ender. No reason to use this over the A ender. When done with stand 214A in particular, all 3 of the enders can be cancelled into stand 623X, which can be used to tack on some extra damage to the C ender. 236X is the iconic Aura Aura barrage, and thankfully it's quite useful for Jotaro in a few ways. The stand-off version sends Star Platinum a fixed distance away from Jotaro to attack, with the button strength determining how far he goes and the startup and recovery. This move is mainly used for combo extensions post-tandem. It's the ideal way for him to extend combos and stand off, and it adds some really nice damage to Jotaro's routes. Stand 236X also finds use as a combo tool since it can be cancelled in a stand 214X, and it does a fuckload of stand gauge damage, which you probably already noticed is a trend for J-Money. Jotaro's damage and combo extensions are one of the defining aspects of his character, but what if he can't kill? It's always a possibility depending on the character and considering stuff like guts, not to mention not every hit leads into his full B&B. A top tier character can't just have damage, they also need something for the knockdown afterward, and that, my friends, is where his final special move comes in. 623X Starfinger. Starfinger is a very cool move, and one that absolutely anyone who's ever played this game dreads seeing. I'll say up front that stand off Starfinger is the preferred version of the move. Stand on Starfinger has some niche use in combos, but that's really it. Both versions of Starfinger can be held, and if held for long enough they become unblockable, but this is completely impractical. With stand off Starfinger, Jotaro can move around, jump, and even attack. There is utility to using Starfinger as a tool in pressure, as it's safe on block and leads to a full combo, though be aware that Jotaro can't block while Star Platinum is out. Starfinger's primary utility is found in Okizeme, and this is where things really get messed up. After a knockdown with stand 214B into 214A, deactivate your stand, and then pull out the finger. This allows Jotaro to push a 50-50. He can either do meaty 6B, which hits low, or instant overhead jump C, which must be blocked high. After either one hits, releasing Starfinger will grant Jotaro a full combo. Any hit he gets in stand on can go into a knockdown with a simple combo into stand 214B, 214A, and that goes right into a 50-50, which has a very real chance of killing, especially taking into account any stray hits Jotaro may have landed up to that point. The block-only frame prohibits doing reversals on Wake Up, so all you can do here is guess. However, there is one snafu that limits Starfinger Oki's utility. It's not universal. Yeah, tragic, I know. First and foremost, Iggy, Devo, and Alessi. Don't even try it. You cannot use Starfinger Oki on them. Iggy is completely immune to being hit by instant overhead jump C, no matter the situation. Alessi and Devo can also crouch jump C by simply holding down. If they crouch block, they can get hit by instant jump C, but Starfinger will always whiff afterward, so you get no combo. On these characters, you must use alternate Okizeme, which I'll detail in a bit. There are a few more characters that give Jotaro a really hard time when trying to do Starfinger Oki. Those with real fast wake-up speed, notably Abdol and Rubber Soul, require extremely precise timing to perform Starfinger Oki after a stand 214B, 214A ender. However, it is possible to ease the difficulty of this by ending your combos with 2C. Told you we'd come back to this normal. 2C can be cancelled directly into Starfinger, giving Jotaro enough time to properly 50-50 them. You have to alter your route slightly to get a 2C ender, but it's more than worth it to be able to go into Starfinger Oki. Eating a 2C from Jotaro raw also puts you into a nasty situation because of this. If he catches you lacking with this button, you're going to be guessing for a nice chunk of your life. While they don't quite compare to Starfinger's effectiveness, Jotaro does have other forms of Oki that he can substitute for those who are immune or whose wake-up speed makes Finger Oki too difficult to do reliably. 236C can be used to similar effect as Starfinger, knockdown into 236C and then a 50-50 between high and low, with the Aura Aura granting a combo on hit afterward. The issue with Aura Aura Oki comes from using it mid-screen. In the corner it converts into a full combo, but mid-screen it does not, meaning you only get the damage from the mix-up. Thankfully, only a handful of matchups actually necessitate the use of Aura Aura Oki over Starfinger. There's also some unique and cool stuff that you can do that works exclusively on Pet Shop. In terms of supers, Jotaro possesses possibly the best non-tandem super in the entire game. I'll leave it for last. First up is 236AA and its variations. This is a super version of the Aura Aura special, and it's mainly used for damage, both at the end of post-tandem extensions and even during tandems. As a damage engine, it's extremely powerful, but comboing directly into it can be a little tricky. Outside of tandem stuff, the main way that Jotaro routes into the super is through the BBC link. It's named after the player who popularized it. The BBC link goes as such. After hitting with a dash 2B, you cancel into 236AA and then go directly into 6B. The idea is to do the 6B after 236AA super flash so that it connects before the super actually hits. It's a very difficult link, but it leads to some super flashy routes. As you can guess, stand 236AA leaves Jotaro unable to attack during the rush. It's a pretty standardly solid combo ender. You can also do this in the air. Works as a flashy air callout, but it's punishable on hit if it connects on a grounded opponent. Watch out for that. His other super is the time stop, which he shares with the two Dios. It costs 3 bars minimum to activate and consumes all the meter you have, with more meter keeping the opponent frozen in time for longer. Its practicality is limited by the extremely slow startup. Unless the other player is asleep, there's literally zero reason Jotaro should ever get away with this in neutral. However, he can set it up after a stand crash with a cancel from 2C. Is it worth it? Well, it's one of, if not the single coolest move in the entire game, and that's definitely worth its weight in style points. Not really worth it in terms of damage. You can get more from spending meter on anything else, but fuck, it's cool. All damage done during a time stop is subject to damage scaling, so even if you do manage to land it under normal circumstances, it's really not that rewarding. Jotaro is able to perform the time stop glitch. If you're unfamiliar, this bug involves performing a time stop just as a round ends. Time will stop while the second or third round begins, allowing you to hit the opponent before their health bar refills, potentially ending the game before they can do anything. However, Jotaro actually gets less use out of this than the other two time stoppers. His time stop has faster startup than Dio or SDO, which is actually a detriment for the time stop glitch. There are characters where the glitch doesn't work because they don't wake up fast enough for their hurt box to become active once time stops. Since Jotaro's time stop is the fastest, more characters are immune to his time stop glitch, since he gives the least amount of time for characters to get up before time is frozen. It's mostly a gimmick. Spend your meter on other things unless you want to ruin someone's day. Like his final super. Let's just get right into it. 214AA Starbreaker. Perfect. Let me compose myself real quick. Starbreaker is Jotaro's best super, and one of the absolute best moves in the entire game. Underneath its simple looking exterior lies one of the single most dangerous and useful attacks any character has to offer. Like the Aura Aura super, there are differences in the way it functions depending on if it's done in stand off or stand on. Stand on Starbreaker is the infamous version, so we'll highlight why first. Regardless of version though, one of the biggest draws of this super is the sheer damage output. Obviously the exact number can fluctuate greatly due to differing character defense values, not to mention the gut system, but this super always does insane damage. Stand on Starbreaker is one of the single most dangerous whiff punishes in the game. See, in addition to the damage, this super boasts both incredible range and a metric ton of invincibility frames. Even at spaces where you think you might be safely out of the super's range, you probably aren't. Any button you press, any action you commit to could be blown up by a random Starbreaker, and the cost you incur in health for eating one is high. And Jotaro doesn't even have to be random about it. It's a phenomenal ranged punish that forces people to respect him. As a combo tool, Stand 214AA isn't the most flexible due to its slow startup, but it does combo out of close stand 5C, which adds a lot of damage in combos where a stand crash is caused by a launcher, like Stand 214B 214B. I really can't put into words how much I hate this super, because it just feels like you can't do anything when Jotaro has meter, otherwise you get nuked from a quarter of a screen away. Thing is, this isn't just me playing casuals with a friend trying not to lose my mind. There is counterplay to Starbreaker. It's not entirely consistent because of something I'll talk about soon, but it is there. Although stand 214AA is pretty much safe on block entirely, it is ridiculously punishable if push blocked. If Jotaro does this super and you push block it, do not let his ass get away with it. The reason this isn't an entirely foolproof strategy is because of the final property of Starbreaker that makes the super broken. Watch this. What happened? Well, you can actually hold down a button to charge the super. At full charge it becomes unblockable, but like with Starfinger, it takes way too long to be useful. If you press the S button at any time during the charge, Starbreaker will disappear, cancelling out the super's recovery. This Starbreaker feint is one of the best things about the move. Completely removing the need to commit to the attack, Jotaro can use this to punish people attempting to roll the super by feigning it and then grab them. It's an extremely tricky situation to deal with, especially since it can potentially ruin your punishes. Doing the input for a push block outside a block stun will roll, meaning you're practically throwing yourself into Jotaro's hands if he feints and you did a preemptive push block expecting him to let the super rip. What's also pretty fucked up is that if the cancel is done quick enough, Jotaro will retain a small amount of the invincibility from the super startup. There's a very good chance that if you try to check Jotaro with a button when he's doing Starbreaker and he feints it, your button might just pass through him as he walks up to grab you. That's the gist of stand-on Starbreaker, godlike whiff punish tool that leads to huge damage with a tricky feint attached to enhance Jotaro's strike throw. The stand-off version does not have as much invincibility, so it's not as useful for punishes, but it is faster, and thus more combo-friendly, ideal for securing kills as an ender. Really, there's not much I can actually say because Starbreaker's strengths sort of speak for themselves. This is a super you have to be ready for in this matchup because you will suffer for not doing that. It's why Jotaro is such a threat even when he's not directly next to you. So we've talked about Jotaro and everything that makes him amazing. His damage is incredible and in more ways than just the ones I've talked about. Something I didn't even mention is his ability to perform unblockable resets. He's not the only character capable of doing this, but he benefits from being able to pull them off all the same. How you do them is slightly different depending on if the opponent is in stand on or stand off, but the general idea is to exploit a quirk with the game that involves landing on the ground. When you get hit in the air or perform certain actions, such as attacking, you will be unable to block during your landing animation for one frame, and being hit during this animation will put a character into hit stun on the ground. If you hit the opponent with an attack that launches them at the end of a long combo, the move will instead cause a knockdown that puts them into their landing animation. Keeping this in mind, it's possible to use one of Jotaro's launching attacks in order to force the opponent into their landing animation and unblockable them during a combo, but it depends on if the character you're doing it on is in stand on or stand off. Stand on characters cannot be knocked down, even when launched during a combo, so being hit by a launcher will put them straight into their landing animation. Hitting them meaty on the frame that they cannot block will result in an unblockable that Jotaro can convert into a full combo. For standoff characters, since they actually can get knocked down, the process is similar, but after launching them, Jotaro must hit them with a button to force them to stand. After that, they're in the landing animation and are vulnerable to an unblockable. Ideally, you would go for Jump C, since it's an unscaled starter that doesn't trigger the game's infinite prevention system, leading to better and more consistent damage. There are outstanding factors that can force Jotaro to alter the routes he needs to take for these resets. Certain characters have odd quirks like weird landing hurtboxes, or in Midler's case, a lack of hurtbox when she lands in stand on, which makes her immune to these kinds of resets, and of course he might have to alter his combo for short characters. Still, they're a powerful part of his arsenal, allowing him to perform practical touch of death combos. All this is to say, once Jotaro gets a hit in stand off, he is going to make it hurt. His combo game in stand on is nowhere near as potent, but he can easily confirm into a knockdown with a simple chain into stand 214B, 214A, and there's bigger damage to be earned through a stand crash with stand 5C into Starbreaker. Even more so than his damage though, what's really amazing is his ability to convert hits into offense. The most simple Jotaro combos lead to knockdowns that he can use to start his devastating Oki game, and he has superb anti-airs and tech chasing, not to mention Starbreaker, so there's almost always a chance to do damage even off of stray hits. On block he has really solid pressure with ways to give himself frame advantage and minimize push blocking, and against stand on, his stand gauge damage is crushing. His defense is very competent. His guard cancels are not good, but he has lots of invincible options with Tandem, Starbreaker, and even the Aura supers. And as I detailed before, he's got so many amazing buttons. The only real issue he has is a small stand gauge. It's actually tied for the smallest. Makes for one hell of a volatile mirror match. He's also not exactly the most mobile character, especially in standoff. His different movement options, his dashes, rolls, and jumps, are fairly sluggish, which means matchups against characters with strong zoning like Hole and Midler can be very annoying. However, he can partially amend this through use of stand on, which gives him beefier buttons to leverage as well as less pre-jump frames. His strongest Oki not being universal sucks, but he has other options in the matchups he can't use Finger Oki, and he still generally beats or fights those characters well just on the virtue of his buttons and his damage. This really all underlines what truly makes him amazing, which is how well-rounded he is. Even though his kit is focused on aggression, he doesn't sacrifice versatility to do so, and there's no area on screen where he truly struggles. If he gets a life lead, he has no problems playing lame and maintaining it. He has sauce in his combos and Oki, and at the highest level of play, he's an absolute spectacle to watch in motion. If you're like me and can't do any of that stuff, his simple stand-on combo structure and his neutral being so strong means you can still do well without learning optimal combos, so there's tons of room for expression. Jotaro is my favorite example by far of a character being adapted from their original source material into a fighting game. Somehow they managed to perfectly capture what makes him so cool, not to mention the simple but effective nature of his fighting style, and that's something I think is incredibly impressive on Capcom's part. Anyway, that's all for now. This was a really fun video to do, purely because of how awesome Jotaro is in this game. I can't understate how cool everything about him is. He really is a crowning achievement in design, even with all the jank and BS that follows. As someone who's been trying to get better at this character for a while, it was a blast to learn about some of the intricacies of his kit beyond the stuff I was already aware of, like Finger Oki and Starbreaker's, everything. This video's script was made with help from Ken Speedway and SNUSCRYSTAL. To the two of you, I'd like to say thank you so much for the assistance. I truly do appreciate it a lot. Some of the clips in this video were also recorded by Ken, so thank you for allowing me to use them. Much of the footage in this video is from the Heritage for the Future Awakened tournament series, as well as Project Potatoes tournaments and Fightcade replays from BNOC, so huge shoutouts to all of them. Thank you for watching this video. Have a great night and take care. Hey everyone, this is the part of the video where I thank all my channel members. Sorry that this took a little long, but I've been keeping myself busy, namely with grid break, so haven't exactly had a ton of time to edit this, but finally decided to buckle down and finish it up so I could spend the rest of the next week grinding Uni 2 for that. The finals for that is on the weekend of the next weekend, I believe, so want to check that out, cheer for whatever team you're rooting for, then be my guest. It's been a very fun event to be a part of, not that I want to spend this entire segment talking about it. Anyway, I want to thank again Ken Speedway and SNUSCRYSTAL for the help on this video. Very fun video to work on. I've been trying to learn Jotaro in this game for a decently long time, but I'm just so bad at his combos, so it's been tough. But, as usual, I like to use these videos as a springboard to try and gain more information about these games so I can get better at them. So we'll see. Especially since I do have JoJo's coming up at my local in a couple of weeks, which is really exciting. I don't get a ton of chances to play that game offline, so it's always exciting. Anyway, that's enough rambling. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Old Man Han, Kemi the Killer, Jawspaw, Mortis, Arg Seals, Wormy, Perfect Orange, Happy the Hap Hap, Gundog 92, Loose Chujin, Raymond ZX 200. Nick Toyo, Power Level Asian, Kira the Stowaway, Sonic Frontiers is a Good Game, Isaac the Collector, Chandaran, Professor Bagel, and Slurpee. Thank you all so much for the membership support. It really does mean a ton to me. I've been trying my best to balance, these videos as well as grid break, and I think I'm doing all right, but I'm definitely going to try to lock in, especially for, these next coming weeks. So thank you for the support. As usual, it really does mean so much to me. I think that's all I've got for now. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the support. I love you all. Have a great night. Take care.